Hi, how are you everyone? It's Mr. J here and welcome to my first ever video. I am super excited to begin producing Mario content. I was first introduced to video games through the Nintendo GameCube, and the Mario Party series is something I still play to this day. We will start things off with my personal ranking of the boards in Mario Party 4. I hope you enjoy. Number 6. Bowser's Gnarly Party. Starting us off here is the only unlockable board in Mario Party 4, Bowser's Gnarly Party. This is unlocked by completing story mode. Unlike the other boards in this game that are hosted by the character the board is named for, this board is hosted by Koopa Kid. But Bowser is very prevalent as he will always be set up somewhere on the map. If the player passes Bowser at normal size, the Koopa King will steal half of their coins. If the player is mini from using a mini mushroom, Bowser sends them to the store located in the middle of the board, which contains 2 Bowser spaces and a fortune space, before the player returns to the main part of the map. If the player is Mega from a Mega Mushroom, Bowser challenges them to one of 2 minigames, Bowser Wrestling or Panels of Doom. In Bowser Wrestling, the player presses L and R alternatively to shove Bowser out of the ring. In Panels of Doom, each player picks to stand on a panel numbered from 1 through 9 and takes turns with Bowser rolling a dice block, which opens up that panel number. If the player loses, they lose half of their coins. If a player passes Bowser wearing a Bowser suit, an incredibly rare item that can only be obtained by landing on the Bowser space, Bowser rewards the player with 50 coins. This is something I do not believe I've seen play in this map. There are bridges made out of stone on this board that will crumble after a player crosses it 3 times. There are 6 happening spaces, 3 at the bottom left and 3 at the top right, with the Bowser head that will breathe fire, causing the player to lose one of their items. There are 2 Koopa Kid minigames on the board that the player can participate in while mini. At the bottom left, there is Koopa Kid Shuffle, which involves Koopa Kid shuffling 3 item boxes and essentially giving the player a random box regardless of which one they pick. The other one at the top right of the board, called Break Bullet Bill, is where Koopa Kid shoots a bullet bill at the player and they need to mash A in order to slow it down. The faster they mash A, the shorter distance the bullet bill will travel and the more coins the player will get. This is certainly an interesting board. I'm just really not a fan of all the extracurricular Bowser events going on, which is to be expected in a board like this. It's just not my kind of board. Number 5. Koopa's Seaside Soiree. This is a board I grew up playing quite a bit, but I enjoy other boards these days. The main gimmick here is the Koopa Cabana in the middle of the board. Players pay 5 coins each time they pass one of the 2 Koopa spaces, and watch as Koopa builds his hotel. However, if the player lands on one of 6 happening spaces around the cabana, they will pay whatever is invested for a stay, only to see it get washed away by a massive tidal wave. To me, it just gets kind of annoying after seeing it a million times, losing however many coins you put in, and knowing what's ultimately going to happen. There are also 2 Yukikis on both sides of the board that throw banana peels on the floor, and the player slips and goes either up or down. I'm really not a fan of this mechanic because you really have no control over which way you go. The other events that go on this board are the happening spaces where you ride a dolphin to the corresponding happening space, a coin mini game on the bottom left where the player chooses one of 3 fishing poles. The bigger the fish, the more coins they get. There's also an item mini game on the right side of the board where the player picks one of 3 melons, but they are spun around beforehand, making it harder to choose. Also in the same area, which can only be accessed if the player is mini, are 4 fortune spaces. So that's a rather treacherous area of the map that can really shake things up. It's a cool idea for a board. Maybe I just played it so much when I was younger, but it's not what it used to be for me, making it number 5 on this list. Number 4. Shy Guys Jungle Jam. I feel like this is a board I did not play all that often growing up. I like the scenery going on here, and it's an okay board with the exception of one thing, the Shy Guy Wells. These account for all 6 happening spaces on this board, and it's just too random as to what happens. You either give the Shy Guy well a happy wish or a sad wish, and you either please it and nothing happens, or you make it angry and the board gets cut in half for up to 3 turns because the mountain floods in the middle of the board. And I'm really not a fan of this. It's just, to me, there's just nothing to it. It's just kind of random, and I could certainly do without it. That aside, I like how the board looks. Klepto starts the game at the top left of the board and will fly the player to the mountain across the board for 5 coins. Whichever mountain Klepto is on, they will fly the player to the other side of the board if they choose, and the player can collect coins while doing so. A shy guy in the middle of the board will also take the player across the river on the raft for a random price. The big tree on the left side of the board is the item minigame, which involves 3 items hanging from the tree which sway left and right. The player needs to time their jump to hit the item they want. The coin minigame on the top right involves winding up a small fly guy. The more the player winds it up, the higher it goes, which determines the number of coins the player gets. This is a board I do enjoy playing, but the Shy Guy wells, for me, keep it on the bottom half of the list. Number 3, Goomba's Greedy Gala. The casino board. There's a large roulette wheel in the middle of this board where Goomba will throw a marble onto the wheel as it spins, and the player will go whichever direction of the color the marble is on, either red, green, purple, or blue. If the marble stops on one of the 4 stars, the player gets 20 coins and gets to pick which direction they want to go. It's an interesting gimmick. At the top of the board, there's a table where the player slides across on the chip and collects coins if they land on one of the 5 happening spaces, going from the purple section to the blue section or vice versa. In each section but the green section, which is where start is located, there is a minigame where Goomba rolls a dice block and the player has to roll a higher number. If the player rolls a higher number than Goomba, they get 10 coins and can proceed. If they roll lower, or if Goomba rolls a 10, the player gets sent back to start, which is not necessarily a bad thing because this is basically the only way for the player to get back to start if they are on the left side of the board. The item minigame on this board is in the purple section, where a player that is mini gets to select one of 3 Goombas after they shuffle and get the item. The coin minigame in the blue section involves a slot machine, where players ground pound to stop each slot. If all 3 slots match up, they win that number of coins. If not, they get 1 coin. This board is an interesting one. I kind of feel like the top 3 can go in any order for the most part, but the fact that the player can be stuck in one area for mostly an entire game knocks this one down a few notches for me. Number 2, Boo's Haunted Bash. Growing up, this probably would have been my least favorite board, but now it's one of my favorites. Boo's Haunted Bash is understandably a mystical board known the most for its Mystery Train and Red Boo bridges. The 2 are directly correlated, as the Mystery Train will not run if the bridges are there. These bridges are set on and off by passing the Red Boo in the middle of the board. When Red Boo and the bridges are gone, players can ride the Mystery Train from the graveyard at the top left side of the board to one of either 4 graveyards, 2 on the far right, 1 at the bottom, and 1 at the left. The train also picks up any other players it passes and takes them with it. There are only 2 happening spaces on this board, both at the top right, which summons Big Boo after players land on either of the 2 spaces 3 times. Big Boo will then steal coins for 15 coins or a star for 150 coins from every other player, giving them to the player that summoned them. So this is obviously enormous, can be a big game changer. Steals coins or stars from each other opponent. It's very rare, but it is certainly a game changer. The big trumpet on the right side of the board is the item in the game, where Boo puts 3 items into the trumpet and the player plays one of the 3 notes, releasing an item. The coin minigame is rather easy in this board, which is the piano just northwest of the Red Boo. Players have to keep up with the Boo by pressing the buttons shown on the keys. The more keys the player gets right at the end of the game, the more coins they win. That Big Boo can really throw this game out of whack, but I'm a guy who generally likes it when crazy things happen in these games, so I'm a big fan of that. When I was younger, I did not appreciate a lot of the other aspects of this board as much as I do now, which puts it near the top of the list. Number 1, Toad's Midway Madness. The classic amusement park board. I am really not a big amusement park guy myself, but this board just has it all for a Mario Party board. Yes, you have the teapots that send you depending which way the arrow is pointing, but I don't mind that on this board. It's open, you could explore the entire board, It's even fun sometimes when you have to run across the entire board when the roller coaster comes chasing after you. Unless there's a star right there, of course, but you know what I mean. Riding the coaster is fun too, even if it is difficult to pick up what side the coins are on when you're riding it. The merry-go-round is my favorite item minigame, when you pick a horse and stop to see which one of the 4 items you get. I even like the coin minigame, which is the rocket ship at the top left side of the board, where the player picks one of 3 rockets, takes them for a small ride, and wins the coin amount at the top. To me, this is the most fun board in Mario Party 4, making it deserving of the top spot on my list. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you rank Mario Party 4 in terms of the GameCube games of the series? I'm excited to see what you have to say. Stay tuned for the next video of the series, my top boards in Mario Party 5, and have a great day.